gas masks and hand grenades. Gas masks and hand grenades. Gas masks and hand grenades. Gas masks and hand grenades.
Welcome, YouTube people. What is happening? It is Gas Masks and Hand Grenades. I am your host, Jeff. What is going on? Today, we have a returning guest. He was brave enough to come back. I can't believe it, but he was definitely brave enough to come back, which is awesome. Today, I have guitarist extraordinaire from Dokken, Warlock, Doro, and many other projects, Mr. Jon Levin. How are you, John? What's going on, man? What's happening, dude? So we had a little stress. Yeah. We had to revert to the phone, but you know what? Looks great in landscape. Everything looks cool. So we're all good. We can hear each other. Good to see you again. Thank you so very much for popping back in. And when you were on the first time, we had to do one of those quick, label promo sort of things where everything was like 20 minutes here and 25 minutes. And I don't work great under those constraints. I like to riff off of, just have an interactive dialogue with people. And that's where I tend to do my best work. And so I asked you to come back. It took us a little bit of time. We had some things going on. You had a trial, I believe, that you were involved in. And we had to kind of put things off. But now we are so I want to get back into who Jon Levin is and how and why he's arrived at the point that he has at this stage in his life. But before we do that, we were talking about just before we went live, the album is out now about a month and a half, almost 2 months now. It came out October 27th, I believe. And that being When Heaven Comes Down. That's the new album on Silver Lining. And it appears that the album is doing quite well. Now, that's a relative sort of thing, though, in today's music market, because doing quite well is different now in 2023 than it was in 1983. In 1983, you were moving units, and you were moving thousands and thousands, and maybe hundreds of thousands, or even millions for platinum status to achieve success. Today's market is very different. I wanted to kind of ask you about starting out. What's your impression so far of how the album's doing, the accolades it's getting, the good press it's getting, and what is your measurement? Like you've had to adjust to this just like all of us have, but you more so as artists have had to adjust to kind of a shifting paradigm. It's a totally different world, right?
Yeah.
And explain a little bit about that, like what success means to you now as an artist putting an album out that you spent, a couple of years developing and creating and recording and marketing and getting ready to launch. What's the dynamic for you? Can you go into that a little bit?
Yeah, for me, success was always measured in a feeling of accomplishment and being really pleased with how the music came out. Like, to me, that's the ultimate goal, and that's where it ends there. Of course, you hope everyone likes it, and luckily on this one, the response has been wonderful. Which is even better, because now you made somebody else happy, or you delivered something that connected to someone else, which is really the whole point of playing music,
Sure.
But for me, like, the ultimate gratification was always, man, I leave the thing's done, I have it in my hand, and I can put it on in my car, and I'm really like, wow, I'm so happy that I was a part of this.
Right.
This was like just something that I get a really good feeling of accomplishment from that. And that fuels my ability to want to keep going. And personally, honestly, I've also, the opposite side's true. Is also true. Like, I also have a tendency to get sort of let down if I feel like it didn't hit a mark, and,
right.
and it's like no pun for Warlock, but it's like triumph and agony. You know what I mean?
Right.
I always sort of gravitated in life towards things that weren't easy. That if it was easy, it probably wouldn't ever have been something I would want to do, playing music.
Okay.
Very steep learning curve for really any instrument.
Sure.
You have to get yourself and put in the time into doing it. But for me, the ultimate gratification was always here, and here it is. And man, we put in so much effort into this thing, and I'm really pleased with how it sounds. And then you get a huge, tremendous bonus if you feel like that mission's been completed because the fans that you're hoping like it.
Right.
And that's the best you can hope for.
How are the other guys? Are they feeling about the same as you at this point? Because I mean, you even look at, you know, Don's got a few years on us. He's got another decade plus on us. And, you know, he's been in the industry pretty much since he was a 20-year-old kid, 19, 20-year-old. Yeah. Right. And so for him, he lived in that paradigm of, man, I sold 1 million copies.
Oh, yeah. No, we can talk about that too, the industry, how that's changed.
Right.
Exactly. He lived in that. Yeah.
Right. And so for him, he really had to adjust. But listening to his interviews, and Don's such an interesting interview. I'm talking to Rod about bringing Don on if he's not burnt out on the interview circuit, which he might be. Who knows?
Yeah.
I can get that. I can imagine after a while, you guys are kind of like, oh, enough of this shit, right?
That's all good, man.
But I'm wondering, like, have you talked with Don about it as far as like how he's feeling about where we're at?
You know, we don't remember, like, we're just really friends. So we talk like friends, you know, we hang out and have and our discussion about it came up more like this, for example. Like, I remember we were on a run, and we were at this beautiful hotel that just like a giant, gorgeous, high ceiling. And I just got there, and so had Don. Don was eating at the bar, so I went and sat next to him. It was just the two of us for like a couple hours, you know. And we talked about this, you know, and we only talked about. I think at that point the record wasn't even out, but we'd both been listening to it again, you know. Well, at least for me again, I sort of stopped for a while because, you know, after you finish it, you've heard it.
You're so tired of it by the time. You're like,
And then I think I told we both had that look in our eyes of discussion, like we both knew we accomplished. Do you know what I mean?
Right.
I know he had that feeling. It was obvious. We both like said, you know what, we're proud of of each other and ourselves for how we did here.
You felt good about.
We both knew it was, and with any project, you know, it's so many things that have to happen for it to go right.
Right.
You know, from A to Z. There's anything can make it go wrong, and you know, and as the artist and. You know, you can only do so much because at some point it goes into someone else's hands, and you could, you know, we did what we could. And, you know, we said, both of us going in, like, because we had some bad experiences in the past with things, how things at the very end didn't go to Don's liking or my liking.
We talked about broken bones.
Right. And Don and I, we both talked about this before doing it. We were like, you know, this time we're going to be super diligent on each of those steps and not like try and let it ever get. And we did. We put the time in. You know, we both did. Like, Don was calling me and sending me things at 2 a.m, 3 a.m. And we had to get it done. And then we went through a lot of mastering. So we put the work in. You know, and we were focused, and we didn't let it go, and we were honest with each other. And he felt it, if he felt it going that way, or if I felt it going on it, we would talk.
Some course correction.
He said, "How do you like this mix?" I don't like this one. How do you like this mix? Well, the mix is not so much, but the mastering. Like, how do you like this mastering? I remember there was one in particular. I'm like, this one, I feel like it lost all its shimmer.
Okay.
You know, and he was like, "Huh? You sure?" I'm like, "Yes." I don't feel this one, man. I feel like it killed it for me.
Right. You didn't hold back. You were just like,
right. And at the end, and you know, we went for a whole bunch of different mastering until we finally got to the one that we were both like, okay, this elevated it.
John, do me a favor.
Yeah, sure.
Talk to my audience, to your audience, and explain to them. Can you kind of give a very like thumbnail sketch of, you know, tracking versus what the heck is going on behind me? What the hell?
That's pretty awesome. Did you do that?
I didn't do that. I got a new Mac. And I don't know what the fuck I'm doing on it. I'm like,
you can figure that out and teach me how to do it.
That was awesome. Whatever it was super cool. But because I definitely don't look that good with, but it looked pretty cool. Can you explain a little bit each sequence between like tracking? I mean, that's pretty obvious. You're laying down the bed tracks, you're laying down the overdubs, the, you know, and all that kind of stuff. But then what about, can you just speak a little bit to the mixing and mastering process and what that means to an actual finalized recording?
It means everything, because if either of those components, you can change everything in a mix. I mean, whatever it is that you feel like are the sounds that you're looking for. I mean, just make, for example, like, okay, I have a guitar sound that I put down, and I'm used to hearing it, and that's a sound that I spent a lot of time creating, and I'm hearing it just on my studio, right? When I play alone and I work on these demos, I'm so used to that sound that I know that I want it, and you're just hoping like, oh man, I hope this sound I have here transfers to the very end, you know? But it's like painting a painting. Every time you add something else to the painting, it changes the context of what you put down.
Okay.
So everything starts doing this and changing, and
so we're talking about in mixing. We're talking about things like EQing. We're talking about things like compression. We're talking about things like
correct.
delay,
Too much compression can kill a mix or can kill the guitar sounds, because all that crunch, that like the sound that if you have your head like right into a Marshall speaker,
all the dynamics, right?
Yeah, all of that crunch. You start adding too much compression, it just goes away.
Right.
Starts softening, and it's like, wow, what happened to all that aggressiveness that the rhythms had? That was just like dying, you know?
Right.
So, you know, you have to, and changing one sound in a mix changes everything. For example, like there was one point that the bass sound changed. And as soon as, you know, that bass sound changed, all of a sudden it's like, we both heard, it's like, I distinctly remember this. I don't hear the vocals as well now.
Wow.
You know,
and this is coming from Kevin's side.
Well, no, when I heard it, Don and I both said, I don't know, you know, when we changed that bass sound, we have to go back now, because I'm like, Don, I feel like now the vocal doesn't feel right. And, you know, and Kevin even said, yeah, it's because you guys had me change this bass sound. Now it had an effect. Okay. Like everything is a house of cards. You have this much space. Do with it what you will. You know, if you want to have one instrument taking up that much, then you only have this much left. Like everything has to be layered right, you know? And a lot of it's perception too. And Kevin Shirley's just like a genius at doing this, man. Like he knows how to make it that he can layer all of those sounds in such a way that things aren't walking on each other. And you can always hear what it is that your ear wants to hear at that given point in a mix. You know, it's just really, it's like an art to it. He knows how to put on like what I call like a special sauce.
So it's a science of sorts to a large degree.
Oh yeah, totally. And
was he getting digital stems and then converting them to analog through his board then, or how was that working?
I don't know how he did it, but I know he used his board, because he FaceTimed me, because I was on the phone with him. He said, "Hey man, you want to see the studio?" I'm like, "Yeah." So he FaceTimed with me and showed me like all that. He's got a lot of outboard gear and a big console, and you know and I love that, because you know, to me that's just how I grew up recording.
Of course,
know? Now everything, of course, you know, you can record on a laptop.
Yeah, I'm trying to do that. I got a quad Cortex the other day. I'm like completely lost. I have no idea what the hell I'm doing. And I mean, this stuff for an old guy that was all analog, you know, all these things, you'll recognize these, a lot of these things right back in the day, the old style.
I still use some of those things.
Oh man, this compression pedals, I live by that thing.
Boss effects are just so bulletproof, you know.
And I got a Katana too, a Mark II 100 112, because I don't have room for I really don't have room, nor do I have maybe really a need for a Marshall head or a Mesa head or something like that. I just don't have the room for it.
Yeah.
And I also didn't want to invest like $3,000 in a rig like that if I wasn't going to actually be doing much with it. So I bought a nice little combo. And so far I'm really loving that thing, man. I mean, it's got as much growl as you need. Yeah, you lose the tube thing. And we're going to get into some gear, because I really want to talk gear with you. If you're cool with that. So let's take you back. You mentioned that's how you grew up. So let's talk a little bit about Jon Levin and his origin story, if you don't mind. Can you tell me, we already talked about this, if you remember, you're 13 days older than me. We were born the same year, same month, and we're hitting that 58 mark soon, dude. It's coming. It's right there. It's like a bullet train coming at us, right? And I was wondering if you recall, and I always ask this, kind of a boilerplate question, what do you remember as your first sort of like cognizant moments of recognizing music, and maybe that you had a special connection to it? For me, I remember my mom listened to the AOR of the 60s, the late 60s, early 70s, stuff like Bridge Over Troubled Water, Simon and Garfunkel, Carole King, Tapestry, James Taylor, Rockabye, the Sweet Baby James. what, my mom wasn't into like the Sabbath and the Stones and even the Beatles so much. We didn't have much of that around the house. And my dad, who's 83, was like a 83-year-old at 25. He was already listening to Brahms and Tchaikovsky, which is cool, but it's not real cool for a 20-year-old, right? So I didn't have that rock and metal thing, but I had the really cool golden era of AOR 70s that kind of pulled me and spoke to me. And to this day, it's the touchstone for me to get into music. So what about you? I'm really curious about that.
It's my early memories are so vivid for music.
Same here, man.
And it's just like I just remember them so clearly. I mean, even down to like, what my room looked like at that time. And I just, for some reason, but I can't tell you where I ate dinner last night.
Yeah, I know. Right.
Yeah. But for my upbringing with music, they were just so important to me, I guess. And they were so monumental in my upbringing that I literally have recollections of playing piano, when I was just a little kid. And I remember, a teacher helping me and my sister playing. And from there, I remember when I was in third grade or fourth grade playing the trumpet. I remember when I was playing violin in second grade. I don't know how old you are at that point. Maybe you're already, I don't know,
7-ish, maybe.
So I was 7, but I had a lot of memories even before that.
Yeah.
So then moving forward in time, I remember, finding that acoustic guitar in the basement when I was 9.
Whose was it? Your dad's or?
My mom had a nylon string acoustic.
Okay. Yeah.
I found it in the basement and I was like, wow, what's this?
It's like 2112. It's like 2112. I found it, right?
So yeah. And then, of course, even more important moments were when I found George Lynch and Eddie Van Halen and Randy Rhoads and started, listening to those records and trying to figure things out. I mean, it was just like it was like a mind-blowing experience for a young kid. Right. You had nothing else at that time really to help you learn because there was no YouTube. So had I used to buy the records and try and slow them down. And, I remember buying my first 45, the little vinyl. And
slow it down to 33.
Right. It was Brown Sugar and Jumpin' Jack Flash. I bought both.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, I had both of those.
And of course, you didn't know it was open G tuning, so you tried to figure it out in standard tuning, right?
I didn't know that till fairly recently.
Exactly.
Those chords don't sound the same.
Why the hell is this so hard to figure out? Yeah.
So finally, someone tells you, "Oh, he tuned." I'm big into like alternate tunings, and there's a lot of alternate tunings on that Dokken record. I would literally come in and tune the guitar any which way I wanted. And I don't mean like tune it to as a normal guitar, just tune down.
Right.
I mean, I just get my 12 string and I make something up, and all of a sudden, like 3 of the strings would be the same. But I thought it was cool, and I was messing like that, or like even on the song "Over the Mountain." That's if you listen to it, you might start realizing that it's not a normal sounding guitar. And if you pick up a guitar and say, "Wow, what that is." You're gonna instantly want to hit like an A chord, but
it's not. That's kind of cool.
I did a drop D tuning, and then had a capo lying around. I put the capo on the 2nd fret, and I started. And as soon as I hit it, like I started playing around with that, and I really liked the tonality of it.
Right.
Different door for me. Which, yeah. And when that happens, like it's almost like you start finding new positions.
Yes.
You're not used to playing like that, and now, wow, what here? That makes a whole different.
It rearranges the neurons, man, because you start going, let's try some really weird thing. I don't know if you're like this, but I've always tried to make the most complex chords possible just to see what weirdness I can come up with. It's kind of, for me, it's kind of like the Alan Holdsworth mad scientist thing, right? It's like, all right, well, let's see if I can really warp this chord into something bizarre and get these ringing, chiming tones. And then you're never thinking about, well, how the hell am I going to try to play this then?
That's the whole thing. I mean, we record stuff and we just are in the spur of the moment and creating anything we want. But then you have, at some point, you get terrified trying to think, oh my God, I got to go back and learn how to do all this. I don't know.
You're like, this is fucking awesome.
Yeah.
But how the hell are we going to play this?
We shot these videos like a month ago, and I said to Don, I said, Don, let me ask you a dumb question. How well do I need to know these songs? Like, we're not actually going to be playing them, right? He said, no. Like, look, he goes to me like, no, like learn the solos. I'm like, okay, all right, got it.
Right. At least try to
I
mind
ended
the
up learning
solos.
them pretty well. Anyway,
Yeah.
But, I mean, to go back and relearn it, like, I got to be a lot of the stuff. Honestly, I don't know.
You have to reteach yourself. Yep.
I don't know. Like sometimes, I know at some point if I'm recording a demo and I know I did something that I'll never ever be able to figure out again, I'll shoot a little video of myself doing it to teach myself.
Yeah. Good plan.
Future John, how I did that.
Yes. Great plan.
Or re-record it. Here's how I did that. And I got quite a few video clips like that because I can't remember it, man. Who knows,
Yeah, of course. Well, especially with there's a lot of songs that you've written just with Dokken alone, but then you go back through your career, all the earlier stuff, with the Warlock stuff, and then all the hundreds of songs you probably, or maybe even thousands that there are other people's material that you've learned just to jam or to do open mics or whatever. You can't retain it all. It's just there's so much.
I wish I could. Yeah, you wish you can, but it seems like what comes to the forefront of your musical mind are the things that you're sort of doing now. Like if you go back in time and listen to yourself play from years ago, like you might say, like, "Well, I forgot about that riff I used to do." Back.
Yeah. It's like a filing cabinet. You file the stuff that's more recent up front, so you can get at it a lot quicker, right? Was there any pivotal albums like other than like as a kid, like as a young kid that you remember? Like Kiss Alive was the first album I bought, but I was aware of stuff like Led Zeppelin 4, Jethro Tull, Aqualung, like albums like that I didn't really own until into the mid to later 70s. Was there anything in the early 70s that you remember as being like, I'll give you a quick example, John.
Yeah.
I went down to DC last night. Yeah, last night. I went to see a kind of unique recording artist, and it was weird because I was basically watching the guy play his laptop. It was so strange. But William Basinski, have you ever heard of him? The Disintegration Loops? He's like an ambient sound guy, and he uses tape machines to create these textural pieces. Just incredible stuff. I'll send you a clip if you don't mind me sending you one on your phone. But after the show, I walked across the street to grab a beer, and I walked into this little place. There was nobody there. I'm just talking to the bartender, and this song comes on, and it starts out, ooh, 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 ooh. You know what song that is?
No.
Kung Fu Fighting, man. And I'm like, boom, it took me back to like 1975 or 74, whatever. I'm like, I had like that nostalgia thing, like you were saying about you remember every moment. I remember the first time I ever heard that song, which is just bizarre to me. That's almost 55 years ago. And so I guess I was asking that, are there any little thing, like Devil Woman or Spiders and Snakes or that kind of stuff?
Particular song that, like, what, I don't know this. Oh yeah. You know what? Misty Mountain Hop. Oh no. Battle of Evermore. Yeah, that one always brings me back. I'm also a huge Led Zeppelin fan. Whatever phase I went through, I was all in. For that period, whether it was Van Halen, Dokken, Ozzy Osbourne, Led Zeppelin, Leonard Skinner, Eric Clapton, whatever I was on for that period of time, and I was just all in on that.
What about was Kiss a defining band for you? I mean, for most of us guys, it was, right?
I had the giant Kiss poster with the like 6 foot one with 8 smoking guitar.
Yeah,
on my wall. I think I was 13 for that.
Yeah, well, we'd have been the same age. Yeah, I got to see them. That was my first show, 1979 for Dynasty, and that opened up the floodgates, man. Rush was the next year after, because that was my number 2 that became my number 1 for life. Rush is life for me. So, and it was like seeing Hemispheres in the local mall store in 1978 and looking at that artwork with the brain and the naked ballet dancer. And I'm like, Mom, I gotta have that. I'll cut the lawn for the whole summer without any allowance, that kind of thing like that. She's like, all right, I'll get it for you. She's probably eyeing me a little weird looking at that cover, thinking that's really strange. But did you have any of those kind of experiences where you like, something just grabbed you and you had to, it just meant something to you without even really deeply thinking about it as far as music?
You mean if on the initial time I would hear it? Say.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, totally. I mean, there was there was just so many times that happened. I mean, I remember hearing "Paris Is Burning" in a car. And
So did I.
I tell you where I was when I heard it. I was on Central Avenue in Cedarhurst, New York.
No way.
Heading towards the town area.
Right.
It was nighttime. I mean, that's how I see crazy. Like, I remember hearing it, and I heard the intro guitar solo.
Oh my God! One, if not George's best, certainly.
Yeah, but I never. That was the first time I'd heard Dokken, and I heard George. That was the first time.
It was the very first time.
I didn't know who it was. I later found out.
Was it on the radio, or was somebody playing in the car?
It was on the radio, and I found out because there was a friend of mine like in the car with me, and he knew who it was.
So my first time hearing it was also in my '76 VW Bug, 1980ish, my first car. And my buddies and I were getting high. we were smoking weed, and I'm like, "What?" And I hear that delay, that descending delay riff he does.
Yeah,
just
that riff at the end was just mind blowing.
Yeah, you're just like, "What was that I just heard?" Right?
You didn't hear people play like that.
No.
I mean, the only other person, frankly, that I heard play like that at that time was Eddie Van Halen.
It was Eddie.
And it was different playing. They sounded different, but in that league of guitar virtuoso, Right. So I was just like, who is that?
Exactly. Yeah. Hey, you said you started on piano at 4, just plunking around, or did you actually start like official lessons? And
I think I had a couple of little lessons. I was very young, but I was definitely. We had a piano in the living room, and
right.
I never got to the point of. I wish I would have continued with it. I really do. Like I regret. I have a keyboard here, and I'll use it in the studio to hack out some chords once in a while. Yeah. But I really wish I could play proficiently, because if you're sitting in front of a piano, like any song that's ever been written is in front of you.
Yep.
And the ability to change keys is just all right there. It's so much more liberating, say, than to some degree. Playing on guitar has somewhat of a limitation compared to piano.
Sure. Yeah.
Because the tonalities of the chords start sounding different in different positions. In piano, you don't really have that. You want to change the key, do the exact same thing, step down, 2 steps down.
Well, I think theory-wise, it's way more. Guitar is more complex in a weird way, because it's not laid out the way that you have it. I mean, yes, if you lay the neck down, it is, but it isn't the same thing. I mean,
the B string is always what struck me. I still can't figure that out today, to be honest. Why the C? But I mean, that I never was able. So why is this one tuned different? Like, you got 6 of these
in fourths, right? Oh, I lost you. Are you there? Uh-oh. Hey, John, I lost you. I don't know if you got a call. I don't know where you went. There you go. Did somebody call you?
Oh, there we go. My back?
Yeah, you're back. Did somebody call you?
You hear me?
Yeah. You're there.
Oh,
did somebody call? Hear you. What's that?
Hang on.
Hello? Hang on, guys. We're working on it. Hello.
That work?
Can you hear me?
I can't hear you.
All right, go back out and come back in. Go out and come back in.
Yeah, all right. Let me leave and come back in.
Yep.
All right.
Okay, guys, a little bit of stress. We couldn't get the link to work in his laptop, so he's doing it with his phone, and I'm gonna have to tell him he's got to put on Do Not Disturb. Otherwise, it'll keep happening. Great dude, man. Really cool guy. Really, really cool. Good stuff. Hey, are you there?
Yeah, unfortunately, because I had to do this on my phone because I couldn't get it to work on the computer. Anytime someone calls me, it's going to knock me out here.
Well, did you want to put on Do Not Disturb?
Yeah.
I think if you put it on Do Not Disturb, that should work. Hopefully it doesn't mess with the with the audio though. All right, hang loose, guys. I'm gonna kick him out. There we go. It's never easy, man. It's never simple. There's always some little glitch or something. Who knows? I'm using hey, what's up, Tim? I'm using my new MacBook Pro, and I'm still kind of mind blown because I've been using a PC prior, and so that's kind of a new thing for me to get my head around. So there we go. Hold on. Hey, man. Here.
Did you edit the interview or so?
I can. I generally don't, but I'll work on something. Yeah, I can edit that part out. Yeah.
Yeah, because I'm on the phone. Anytime someone calls me, we're gonna run into this, man.
So you can't. If putting on do not disturb, it won't. It just won't.
I'm on the do not disturb portion, but I don't see a button to just like put it on.
Okay. All right. Well, we'll try to wind our way through it then. If I have to, I'll just edit.
Yeah. Unless you want it. Yeah, I guess at this point we got to just muddle through.
We'll just muddle through it. Yeah. I mean, maybe 30, 35 more minutes, somewhere in that range.
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay. So.
I think my next not till 2. So let me just check.
Okay, yeah. I mean, I had talked to Rod and said I might want you, 60 to 90, and he didn't seem to have a problem with that.
Problem, man. I got plenty of time.
All right, brother. So go on out and come back in.
Okay, cool.
See ya. All right, he's coming back. We're gonna have to edit some of this out. Just it's the way it goes when you're doing live shit. Sometimes you have a weird one that happens this way, but he's coming right back in. So hang loose for a sec, guys. There he is. All right. Hey, we're back. Now you got me.
Back. Where were we?
All right, so we were where were we? We were at Kiss. We got past Kiss. We talked about that. We were talking about keyboard and transposing and figuring out stuff. So you started with the keyboard. You didn't really hang with it. I heard you say you did violin. Was that kind of like the grade school thing where they get you to pick an instrument? You got to pick an instrument?
Probably, yeah. I picked violin. I remember I broke a string on it, and I went and found a string and changed it.
Wow.
Yeah.
Nice. As a kid, no less.
I was just little. And I went to a store and they sold like single strings. I bought one string for a violin, and my mother probably bought it for me.
Right.
And, then I did trumpet starting on like I think it was 3rd or 4th grade. And
I took trumpet in 3rd grade too, man. Yeah. I developed a rash. I developed a rash from the brass, with the embouchure thing and all that.
Yeah.
And it just my whole face broke out. So I never went back to it. I was like, man, that's lame. Then I got my first guitar. I was like, yeah, that was so
that was it. And I stuck on trumpet for quite some time. I stuck on until I was 16.
Oh, into high school then?
15. I became pretty good. Not great, but
can you still do that? Can you still find it? No.
I'm sure you know what? I bet I could pretty quickly. If I wanted to. Probably could. But it'd take a minute. I wouldn't remember the notes, but I'm sure it would come back.
So were you in the school band and everything like that?
Yeah, I was in all those stage bands and all that.
You were definitely a band nerd then? You were a band nerd?
Band nerd.
Nice.
And, I really took to trumpet. And by the time I was in 6th grade, I was pretty good. Yeah.
Cool. When does the guitar suddenly appear? When did you find that guitar and go,
the guitar came at 9, and then the guitar just erased over the horn.
Right. And so at that point, you're 9 years old. I guess you're what? That's probably around that same time, 6th grade.
Yeah, around that same time I found that.
5th grade, somewhere in that range, right? And so that kind of takes over, and at that point, that's mid 70s. So you're now listening to Jimmy Page, Steve Howe, guys like this, the 70s guys, right? Tony Iommi.
Yeah, I started with all that, and there was there was a lot of really good guitar players in my town. Like 5 guys that were all like super good.
No way.
So it was like of course, in my mind, I thought, oh, I guess this is how it is everywhere. You know, there's great players all over. I mean, yeah, I didn't know. I think we had,
For sure.
looking back, I think there was, in my area, there was just some really, really good players, man, you know. And so there was some local, you know, little thing about, oh, how's that guy? That guy's so good. You know, you hear him play, and, you know, he's in a band. You should go see him, you know.
Yeah. You hear about that guy at the other high school, and you're like, this guy's like
Yeah.
a high guitar player, right?
That's what it was like.
Yeah.
And, you know, I became friends with all of those guys, you know, and still mainly still friends largely today. But, you know.
Well, you know, I mean, you're a Long Island guy, right?
Yeah, I am.
Did you know, and this was kind of a later question, but I'll just ask it now. Were you, when you finally got to a point where you were gigging out, which I wanted to ask you about your first gigging experience, so throw that in there. First band gigging experience, give me some of that. But were you at all aware of, and excuse me if I'm a little ignorant here, but because I know New York is gigantic and I know Long Island's pretty big area as well, but a lot of those, like Comac, I know my ex-wife's people were from Comac, and we went up there. It's just like suburbia, like where I live, right? Okay. But were you at all aware of like the Dream Theater guys and the no? Okay. The Twisted Sister guys?
Somehow that never crossed for some reason.
Okay.
I didn't even know they were from Long Island, those guys.
Okay.
I've never met.
So what was the first, like, okay, so you get into high school.
Yeah.
You're totally immersed in the guitar. It's something that you're like totally driven to do, right? Because I saw in other interviews, you're like, once that happened, you were just like, I don't even want to eat. I just want to go play. I want to go to school, come home, immediately do what I got to do. And I think you said you worked too as a teenager, right?
Always worked.
So, you know, you're out, you're doing you're accumulating money so you can start buying gear and getting cool shit, right?
Yeah.
What happens? Where's the first aha moment? Like, man, it's a band. We're gonna do.
Yep.
You know.
Then I had to do the band thing. So I got a band. You know, I guess I always got a band going. And the first one that I remember was when I was 12 years old.
Wow. Really?
And I was 12 years old, and we played like backyard parties. And I remember playing, and then I played a number of shows with this band.
No way.
I don't know how good we were, but I had a band going, and then from that band, then I got into the next band, and that band we played at like the high school battle of the bands, which was like the big thing, you know.
No way.
I always played with older guys.
Okay.
You know, I always was able to find better players and older players, you know. And some of those older players, like Greg Smith, who's still a friend of mine today, was, you know, in so many bands. I don't know if you know Greg.
Yeah, I know that name. What would I know him from mostly?
Cooper. He was in so many. He's a wonderful guy, incredible talent. He was in this band called Cintron on Long Island. And the guitar player was this guy named George Cintron, who was just an incredible talent. And I was younger, but, you know, back then when you're only a few years difference, that's a big difference. So I was 15 and he was 19 or something like that.
That's huge, huge difference.
Huge.
Yeah.
So he was playing in this club band that I couldn't even get in hardly. I used to get a fake ID to try and get in.
Yeah.
And eventually my friends used to say, hey man, you don't get in, you're sitting in the car. Because my friends were all a little bit older than me, and they'd get in.
Okay.
So, you know, 16, 17, I was 15. You know, they can get in. At the time, drinking age was 18.
18, yep. Mm-hmm.
So I sometimes I got in, and, you know, the bands went on late, and they were open till 4 a.m. These clubs, I wouldn't get home as a 15 or 16-year-old till like 3 or 4 a.m. I'd just be right in front of this guy, George Cintron, watching everything he did, because they were playing Van Halen.
And
Ozzy Osbourne.
All the shit you were in love with.
Yeah, and they were great. So, you know, it started like that, and then one day, somehow serendipitously, I met Greg Smith's brother, Jeff Smith, who played bass, and he was a wonderful player. And then I end up getting a band going when I'm 16 years old. And then Greg hears about me through his brother. And then next thing you know, he's like, man, I'm in a band. Then I'm in a band with Greg. Just
kind of snowballs.
Yeah. And, you know, I'm in a band with him then. And, you know, that was a big thrill for me because that was a famous guy.
Right.
Now he really is a famous guy, but he was, you know.
Yeah. Where would I know him from?
Oh, he was in Ted Nugent's band for a long time. He was in Alice Cooper, Wendy O. Williams,
Okay.
I mean, if you look at his, roster, he's played with many, many artists.
Okay, right. I
He's-
know the name. I just couldn't place like where I might know him.
Yeah, he played in Dokken a couple shows. So he filled in the beginning.
Oh, really?
2003, I came to Europe with us. We did the Bangor Head Festival.
He's a drummer or bass player?
Bass player.
Oh, bass. Okay.
Bass, yeah.
Yeah, I'll have to go look at that because I know that name. But so you get the one question I always ask is, and it sounds like I think I know the answer, but you're doing this. I'm assuming you're a decent student in high school.
I had to be because I think my mother was a school teacher and my dad was a dentist, so they wouldn't have it any other way.
Okay, so you had no choice.
I knew that like part of my ability to do what I wanted consisted of me having to do my school nonsense that I had to do. So.
Yeah. Keep the grades up. I can stay out till 4 a.m. Mom won't say.
Yeah, I had a little more leeway if I would get. So I would just immediately try and get all of that school stuff out of my way as soon as I get home, so I can play guitar until. I couldn't.
Did you feel you're a pretty decent student yourself? Were you the kind, like I was always the guy that if I applied myself even a little bit, I got really good grades. If I fucked off, I got terrible grades. And I chose to fuck off a lot more than I chose to apply myself. You know what I mean? Like that was me.
School was very hard for me. I mean, I had like some sort of, believe it or not, I had like some weird ADD learning disability for reading.
Okay.
I was able to read, but I couldn't understand anything. My mind would wander. It wouldn't stay in place. I couldn't, So my entire life, I've never, even to this day, I don't read for enjoyment. I never read anything.
I struggle with it, dude. Like terrible. The older I've gotten, the worse it's getting too. So I fully agree with you. I went to see this a couple weeks ago. I got this free at the show. The Geddy Lee.
Oh, cool.
Autobiography.
I'm looking at, I'm on an iPhone, so the picture.
Yeah. Sorry. We got a copy of it free at the show, right? And this is my dude, man. I love this guy with all my heart. Those are my guys, and I can't get moving on it. Like I'm like every time I turn to sit down and try to like focus myself, I'm like, fuck, what is wrong with me, man?
Yeah.
Like,
it's strange because I'm a lawyer and I can read a contract once and I have all of it.
Well, maybe it's the correlation to.
Yeah.
I have a client. This is billable hours.
Yeah, when I have to do something.
Yeah.
Really do it, but when it comes to reading for enjoyment, they just always shied away from
you. And I are so like
scared. Do it. Yeah. So school, and I didn't want to hang out. I didn't want to do anything except play guitar. And there was like everybody had their own thing growing up. People whatever were more interested. People who didn't play, they were out. I don't know, hanging out and whatever. I wasn't doing any of that.
Yeah.
Go out. I didn't do anything.
Well, now, okay, so I got to ask the obligatory question. You can be. In today's day and age, we have to be careful about how we pose these questions. But let's be honest. As a young male in high school, at least I'm going to speak personally here. I thought if I play guitar, chicks, it's gonna turn into chicks somehow, some way. All the high school cheerleaders are gonna fall in love with it. It never happened. It just didn't happen. But was that ever? It doesn't sound like that was a part of your thing. You were more focused on the craft of becoming the best player you can.
Yeah, I never. Someone, I guess, eventually down the road said to me, "Oh yeah, you can get girls if you play music," and I was like, "Yeah,
what? Really?"
And I had no idea, and that was never any motivation for me to play.
Did you?
I lived under a rock.
Well, that's hard to believe, but so when you're in this phase of development in high school and all that stuff like that, at some point, when did you start like literally playing out for like pay? When did you start getting paid? Do you remember? And what was your band?
Like the first time I actually got money for playing music? Oh yeah, wait a second. I dropped out of college to play in a band called Devious, and Greg Smith was in that band. Okay. Mm-hmm. And we developed a big following on Long Island, and we were selling out clubs. And once you got to the point that we were selling out clubs, they were paying us because we were packing the clubs.
Sure. Right.
So I remember making some money doing that. I don't remember how much or what.
Right.
Back then also it was different. I mean, $100 was probably sort of a lot in 19.
That was a lot of money. Yeah. Compared to now, it's nothing.
Yeah. Now it's today, $5 maybe.
I was going to say it's a tank of gas and maybe a
Yeah,
a Wendy's meal or something like that these days.
You're lucky. Yeah.
Thank you, politicians of all stripes, not just one
Yeah.
side or the other. What happens then? You determine at some point. I know the question. The tie-up question here was. It sounds like your parents were pretty supportive of this. Is that true or not?
No,
Not true. Okay.
not true. Yeah,
Not happy.
I didn't get support from the parents until I got into Warlock and then was on MTV. Because then I knew things were getting better because I'd come home and my mom was like showing now my videos to her friends. So once that happened, I was thinking that's when things changed. And then I remember my dad after that time came home and bought me like a set of really nice luggage.
Oh, so you could travel.
Kicking me out, or
so you could travel. Yeah. Oh, to kick you out. Yeah.
Oh no, he said, yeah. You know what he said? I could see that you're going to be needing these. You know. So I think
how'd that feel? Like how'd that feel?
That was really good because look, there's. I can imagine it from a parental point of view. I mean, you want your kid to have some ability to make a living.
Yeah.
And if your kid's saying, "Oh, I'm going to play music for my life," that as a parent, I would think some parents are like, "No, you're not. You have fun, but you're not doing that for a living." I think my parents are always concerned too, especially my mother. She's always worried about like drugs,
Yeah, which I gather was not like a big thing for you. It doesn't sound like.
No, never went there. Just didn't appeal.
But you had to have seen a lot of it, I'm sure, right?
Yeah, I've seen plenty of that, but just never for me.
Yeah,
didn't want to do it. Wasn't interested in doing it.
And there are there's a lot of casualties along the way, but there's a lot of guys, like Gene Simmons, who he's successful probably because he stayed the hell away from it. I mean,
yeah.
And so and he's not the only one. There's a lot of guys. I think Paul was. Those guys are very driven, and they take a lot of shit for being all about this. But look at what they built. I mean, the dynasty that they built, no pun intended. They had to be pretty clear-headed to move in that direction because you see the two other guys that were in the band from the original, well, not the original phase, but the popular phase, struggled a lot. I mean, they've kind of been up and down in their careers. So, so you go out to LA at some point in time, right? You're what, 19?
The first time I came out to do, first time I came out was to do the Whiter Shade of Pale video, which was 88.
Okay. Oh yeah. So how did you get tied in with the Warlock thing? How'd that all occur then?
That occurred one day. I got a phone call, and I don't remember if the initial phone call came from Tommy Henriksen, who's still a close, dear friend of mine today.
Right. Mm-hmm.
40 years later, or whatever it is.
Yeah. Awesome.
Or if it came from the producer Joey Ballin. It came from one of those two. I just don't remember which. But my next memory was speaking to Tommy on the phone, and I remember him saying to me that he's like, I can tell you right now with this band, when they tell you something's going to happen, it happens.
Okay. Yeah.
So I said to him, you know what? He's like, why don't we get together and let me get me the music, and why don't we get together and like play, see how it goes. So I remember going to his place. And I brought my little Fender Super Champ amp, which I still have here today.
Great amp.
Yeah, they're great. I bought it in like 81 or something, or 82. And I showed up there with my guitar, and we sat down and played together. And I imagine he thought it went well, because next thing I knew, we played an SIR. I was asked to put down. What's that?
Rehearsal studios?
Yeah, I went to the city and played an SIR. And I don't know if we had Bobby Rondinelli yet on the drums. I can't recall. He ended up joining that band. But
yeah, I remember. Yeah.
I don't remember if at that point he was already in or not. I'm not sure. I don't think he was. But
now they were looking for you to come in as a touring guitar player, right?
Just to join.
Oh, to join
I
the
didn't
band.
really know. Like, I didn't ask anything. I didn't really know what was going on. All I knew was I was going down to play, and Doro was there.
Wow.
And Tommy was there. We met, we played. And then a couple other people were there who I now know were her manager and producer, Joey Ballin, who's a great. And then the next day, I believe, I got a phone call from the manager's assistant asking if I can come meet with the manager. And I didn't know who he was. I remember a woman called and said, hi, John, Alex Grove would like to have a meeting with you. And I remember saying, who's Alex Grove? I didn't know who that was. and then she goes, oh, that's Doro's manager.
Oh, wow.
Like, oh, cool. When does he want to meet? She said, can you come into the city? Whatever it was. I went to the city and then went to his office, and we sat down, and he asked me if I wanted to join the band.
So you're 21?
88, 21 or 22.
Yeah. And you're still in New York at this point, right? So you go out to LA, and then did you didn't move there though, right? At that point?
No, because I was able to commute on Long Island Railroad was only like an hour, less than an hour, but about an hour to get to Manhattan.
Okay,
and
right.
Tommy lived on Long Island. His commute was further than mine, because he lived further out on Long Island than I did. I remember we'd go to the city and write in Doro's apartment in the Village, and started like that. Then we rehearsed in SIR and recorded at the Right Track.
But you didn't actually play on an album for them, right?
Yeah, no, I did.
Oh, you did. What?
Doro, Force Majeure.
Oh, the Doro album, but not the Warlock.
No, I mean, I think they built it as Doro and Warlock. It was coming off the Triumph and Agony record, so then I guess they made the decision they didn't want to call it Warlock. I don't really know what.
Okay.
Name.
Probably some legal.
Yeah, maybe. I don't.
Now, did you write for that album? Did you help write any of the songs?
Yeah, I was there when we wrote. I think I'm only credited on one, so my input probably wasn't all that tremendous.
Mm-hmm. And how long a period of time did you spend with Doro then?
That record and that touring cycle, we went to Europe we started with a European tour.
Mm-hmm.
We finished the record, flew to Los Angeles 2 separate times, shot 2 different videos, Wider Shade of Pale and Hard Times. Then we toured, went to Europe and went on the road around summertime of '89. And that was about the extent of my run with her.
And at that point, are you thinking at all like, wow, this is cool, I'm a rock star? Or are you just all sort of overwhelmed with, just this is my life right now? Was it like, did you see it as a long-term thing, or did you just see it as day by day sort of thing? Like,
I don't think I thought much of anything at that time. I think I was just taking things on a day by day basis in my life. I never really thought anything in the grand scheme. Things just sort of happened. I never considered. I was always just considered myself a musician. I don't really know what a rock star is or does.
Yeah, I've heard you say that a lot, and that's a really interesting perspective. That you never got caught up in that trappings of, look at me, I'm the guitar player for this band. And
I just always in it for the music, man. Make the best music and let the instrument talk for you, and hope people like it.
Joe Perry, let the music do the talking, right?
Yeah, that's really it. I mean, at the end of the day, that's what you are as a musician. What did you play? Let me hear what you did and what you wrote, and that's what you do, right?
Okay, so did you guys as Doro, were they doing? I mean, they were doing Donington, not they, but there were things like Donington and some of the bigger festivals were starting in the early to late 80s. Did you play any festival dates with
Yes, we did. One of the first shows we did. Remember, I was just a 21 or 22-year-old kid coming out of Long Island playing clubs. And then all of a sudden we co-headlined the Metal Hammer Festival opening for Ozzy Osbourne.
In Germany, right? That's Germany?
Germany, Dortmund.
And she's pretty big over there, right? In Europe at that time. She's huge, man.
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah.
How was that?
That was the first time I played. I mean, it was a sold-out arena the size of Madison Square Garden. It was.
How was that, dude? Like, was that like a mind fuck?
That was definitely.
Pardon my language, but it happened,
yeah,
right?
You know, that's the hope that every little kid hopes to try and accomplish at some point.
Yeah.
You play in an arena, you know.
Yeah, you're walking out on that giant stage with all these people screaming and yelling, and you're just like, what is going on, right?
Yeah, and it's strange too because you're in Germany, and you know, a lot of people don't even speak your language, so
right?
You almost don't feel like, you know, it's hard. It was harder. today you go to Europe, a lot of people speak English, but
Sure. Yeah.
I recall back then it wasn't as much, But
what led you to leave that situation? What ended up kind of coming down?
What happened? Well, it was two things. Thing number one was, Gene Simmons was going to produce the next record.
Oh, that's
and
right.
He wanted me to play with like an Angus Young guitar tone.
Okay.
And that just, wasn't something that I felt like I could do, So as soon as he said that, I'm thinking, oh my God, man, like I got it. I don't think that's going to work for me. Like I didn't feel comfortable. Like, that didn't feel right.
You're talking about the second album.
Yeah, the second one.
Okay.
And then, like simultaneously with that, I had met a singer. His name was Eric St. Michael's, and I always thought, like, man, this guy's the coolest looking dude, and this guy's just, that's a rock star,
Okay, right.
So, I started writing some songs with Tommy Henriksen and Eric. I'm like, Tommy, I found this singer. Should we write, you want to write a couple songs? So we wrote a couple of songs and they came out great.
Mm-hmm.
So next thing you know, Tommy and I decided, let's go to Cajun Studios and pay a little bit and make record.
Cajun's in PA, right? Gladwin?
Somewhere. Wait, was it Cajun?
Cajun, I believe, is in Gladwin, PA, I believe.
Yep, I think you're right.
Yeah. I think Operation Mindcrime was done there, I believe.
Was it Cajun? Yeah, it was a real studio. One of those.
Yeah.
So if it wasn't Cajun, it was something else. But anyway, whatever. So we recorded. Bobby Rondinelli played drums because he heard the songs and he realized we had something.
Right.
I think we demoed him with a drum machine first.
Was he playing? Who was he playing with at the time? Was he playing?
He was in Warlock, Doro.
Oh, he was in Warlock. Okay, right.
Post Rainbow for him.
Okay. Oh, that's right. He did the Rainbow. The later with the Grand Bonnet stuff. Was it? Or was that Cozy still? I can't remember what.
Joe Lynn Turner was in it.
It was Joe Lynn Turner. That's right. Yep. And now he's obviously with Lita. I think he's been with Lita forever, right?
Oh no, you're thinking of Bobby Marks.
Oh, Bobby Rock. That's Bobby Rock.
I'm sorry.
Rondinelli. Yeah.
Yeah, this is Bobby Rondinelli.
I was thinking Rondinelli was with Prophet. Do you remember Prophet from Jersey?
Don't remember.
You don't remember that band?
No, I'll ask Bobby about it next time I see him.
Maybe I'm dreaming that, but I thought that was who he was with. So okay, so go ahead. So you do these demos.
We do that. To do these demos, the demos came out unbelievable.
Mm-hmm.
Like they sounded amazing, and the songs were incredible. And then next thing you know, Jason Flum heard it, and we got a record deal.
There you go. That's the dude. That's the dude.
Boom. It was fast,
Yeah.
Well, it got to Jason Flum through, I don't know, we signed, long sort of story, but it ended up on Atlantic Records, and Jason Flum, I think, was the A&R guy for us or something. But anyway, that's how that happened.
So what was that band called?
That was called Big Trouble. But the record, we had internal things. The record never came out, and we fell to the prey of the music business, like a lot of bands.
So it's languishing in some vault somewhere, or else it got burned up.
Maybe someone has some recordings, but then when that didn't work out, Tommy moved to Los Angeles.
Okay.
Things happened for a reason, because it was the result of that not working out that got me
out to LA.
That got me to the Dokken gig.
Okay, so let's.
Tommy moved out and he rooms with Jeff. Becomes friends with Jeff Pilson, and then that's how that door came.
Yeah, tell that story briefly. I know you've told it a million times, but how did you end up being kind of yanked out that way and come under the watchful eye of Don? And
well, I met Jeff through Tommy because they were friends. So I knew he knew I played. I don't know if he'd ever heard me play, although I think he must have. And then at some point, Dokken needed a guitar player, and then Jeff calls me.
So this was post-Reb or pre-Reb?
Pre-Reb.
Pre-Reb.
Okay. 98.
This is after This is after the Shadow Life album.
Yeah.
When all the shit kind of went down, that everything fell apart more or less. With Dokken, right.
I guess that's right. That's exactly that time.
Yeah.
Then I ended up Don, and that all happened.
So you met Don. Oh, you came out to just do some solos, or was that it?
Yeah, I went down to do some solos. Met Don that night. Played solos on 2 songs. Quickly.
What year is this? 98.
May or June of 98.
Okay.
Yeah.
And are you thinking at all like, wow, man, like I'm actually here in the room with these dudes that,
Yeah.
Yeah. You're like, what the
For
fuck?
real, because, you understand that Dokken was one of my favorite bands.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
all of a sudden, like, wow, that's pretty strange. And I hadn't played guitar at that point for so many years. I mean, I played just a little bit here and there in the weekends, but I was a lawyer. So
Yeah, we got to back up. I missed that part. So
yeah.
the Doro thing and the bad trouble. Okay,
Big Trouble.
that kind of collapses.
Yeah.
And do you at that point in time you're living where now? Are you in New York or out in LA?
I got another band together and moved to Los Angeles. Moved with the band.
Okay, and what's that one now?
That one was Ain't No Shame.
And that sort of the same sort of thing as Big Trouble.
Started getting momentum in Los Angeles, and then Nirvana hit, and that just erased everything.
Yeah, because you got out there at the very tail end of the hair thing, right? And that's all suddenly being killed by Jane's Addiction and Saigon Kick and bands like that. And then Nirvana comes in, just lays waste to everybody, right?
Laid waste. It was all over.
And what made you decide to go into law? Like, was that something that was always in the back of your mind, or what was?
Never. Frankly, fear of not. I didn't have any money.
Yeah. And fear of not being able to pay the rent. Yeah.
Yeah, my grandmother was sending me like $250 a month. I had a 2-bedroom apartment. There was 3 of us living in it.
Oh wow.
Yeah. And I lived like that for a couple of years. That's what it was. It wasn't horrible, like people, but I'd say you don't want to be doing that for your future,
Yeah,
right?
For your whole life. Yeah.
So, and I was selling computer printer ribbons, like having to wake up at like 4 in the morning or 5 in the morning to sell to the East Coast by 8 in the morning or something. So, and eking out like a couple $100 if you're lucky a week.
And this is all pre-internet, so you're doing it all with fax machines and
telephone. I was
landlines
cold
and
calling people. They'd hand you a stack of cards, and you'd have to just cold call people and try and sell them stuff. Like I was, phone solicitation calls.
Yeah, is there any worse job than that ever? Like really?
I guess the first job is job and having no food.
Yeah.
At least I had something. I didn't like it, and I wasn't good at it. And one day the manager there was a guitar player, so I played for him a couple of times, and that kept me in that job a little longer, because at some point he said to me, "Hey man, I got to let you go. You don't sell anything." I'm like, and I said to him, "I completely understand."
Yeah. You're like, thank God. Now I don't know how I'm going to survive, but thank God, right?
I don't blame you. And then I had nothing to do, and I just the only thing worse the worst thing in my mind that could possibly have happened would be having to move back to New York at that point in time. And I didn't want to do that, and I was committed to doing whatever it took to not have that happen.
I see. Yeah.
So that's it, man.
So you talked to the parents and were like, hey, I think I'm going to go to law school?
Well, my mother had just passed away at that point.
Oh, geez. I'm sorry, man.
Oh, no, it's okay. That was in 91, April of 91 or 92, right around there. And, it must have been 91, because I went to law school in 92. I figured, I got to get something to do. So took the LSATs and went to law school.
Well, okay. Interesting question here, though. You said you left college to do the band thing. Did you go back and finish your undergrad or
I did. When I after Warlock Doro, I took classes as I could, because I was in was that before or after? Right before the Warlock thing, I took some courses in Haas University, and then after it, I finished before I moved out here. So like in the gaps, I went back and I would.
What'd you get your undergrad degree in?
Psychology.
Okay, right.
Yeah.
And then you take the LSAT and you're accepted, and you go to law school, and you knock that out in 3 years.
Knocked it out in 3 years. Yeah, that's what it was, though. It was
right.
Generally 3 years, and it was. I didn't really. The music career in my mind at that point was just over.
Okay.
Bars came out of the closet like every Saturday for an hour.
Right. Yeah. Oh, good. So you actually really like kind of walked away from the music business.
Oh yeah, I was done.
Yeah.
I was out. Probably. In my mind, I was giving it up, and going to do something.
But then the Dokken thing kind of resurfaces.
Yeah.
And kind of brings you back out into the thing. Now, you kind of, as I said in my little blurb that I put out on Instagram or on the description of the video, I said, you have probably one of the more unusual moonlighting day jobs of a rock star, right? Because I'm sure you're not the only rock guy that's done attorneying, but there's probably only maybe 3 or 4 of you guys out there, right?
Yeah, there's not many, but yeah.
And how's that career been overall for you? Because you're in entertainment, do you do family law too?
I do mostly family law, yeah.
So divorces.
Yep.
Okay.
Restraining order, child custody, those type of things.
Yeah, those are fun. I would imagine.
Yeah, it's pretty hard, but I just never wanted to work for anyone else. So the day I passed the bar exam, I passed. I opened up my own office. April 97.
Mm-hmm.
Around there, I just went for it.
And overall, that's been pretty successful for you.
Yeah, of course. You know what? Just in the beginning, when you do something like that, well, I had a record label too for 3 years, 4 years, right around that time. But when you do something like that, it's very hard to say, "Oh, I'm only going to be an entertainment attorney," for example, because
it's a narrow niche.
You have to take whatever it is that comes in the beginning of
right.
that thing.
Yeah.
There's no shortage of family law cases here in Los Angeles.
Now, I would assume you come to the East Coast, maybe especially in the 90s. You had your hair pretty short back then, though, didn't you?
I had it long for the first 2 years of law school.
Okay.
2.5 years.
But when you went professional, you cut it?
I cut it all off, yeah.
Yeah.
And then I cut it to super short. Yeah.
And that goes to that age-old MTV Unplugged video with Mike Inez's basis. Friends don't let friends get haircuts for the Metallica guys, right?
Yeah.
Unless you're a lawyer.
Anytime I've cut it throughout my life, it just always seems to come back. Like I always seem to gravitate towards not feeling. I always wanted to have it longer.
Yeah. I was always in professional work myself. Graduated with a business degree, and then got into. I was an accountant the first 10 years out of school, and I was dude, I was the most miserable accountant on the planet. I hated it.
A lot of people are. I hear it's
I hated it, and then I finally moved into HR. Slight step up, not a huge step, but a slight step up. Did that for years, but I couldn't really do this. I actually had my hair pretty much buzzed. And a couple years ago, when I kind of decided I was done with all that, had some health issues, which I don't know if we spoke about. I can tell you that offline, but I was like, you know what, man, this is who I always wanted to be. Like, I'm just gonna grow my hair. I don't give a shit. Like, you
gotta be who you are.
Yeah.
You gotta make yourself happy to whatever that may be, right? That's what everyone wants to do. Just do whatever it is that
we only get a short time here, right, man?
That's it. Do whatever your life mission is, man. Have at it, because we're only here for a short time.
Exactly. What? So you get finished. You come in, you do these solos, but you're not immediately brought into the fold in Dokken, right? Because Reb comes in and does Long Way Home, and then.
Oh no! Reb came in and did Erase the Slate. Then
Erase the Slate.
Jon Levin, who's another amazing.
Jon Levin was in there as well from Europe, right? How do you end up being brought in? Like, what's the scenario that Don calls you up, or somebody calls you and says, "Hey, I want you in here now."
I can only guess about step one because I wasn't there. But what I would imagine have happened when I was playing with him in '98, they had management. You don't take Jon Levin when you can get Reb Beach.
Exactly.
I know when, you know what I'm saying? No manager. If I was managing Don, I'd be like, Don, you got to take Reb. I mean, come on.
Well, he's a known quantity. You're kind of
course,
right. Especially in the LA scene.
And he's a great player. But, that I don't think they made a wrong decision,
Sure.
So, and frankly, even if he would have asked me to join the band at that point, I don't know if I could have done it. At '98, I had a record label, I had a partner here, I had the law thing going. I don't know if I couldn't just probably up and leave at that point,
Okay, right.
I don't know if I could have.
Yeah.
I might have done it anyway, but I don't know if I might not have done it. I might have had been like, I would have gone to dinner with my partner and we would have talked about it, and he would have probably said, John, come on, you can't do both.
Yeah, right.
Probably have to said, yeah, come on. I band signed to the label on major labels.
Oh, really?
Yeah, we had a real record label.
What was the name of the label?
QED.
Oh, I remember that. Yeah, I didn't know that was yours.
Yeah, that was a long time ago. This was in the late 90s. But,
Who were some of the bands you had on there? I'm trying to think.
We had Deadlights on Elektra Records, Eccentric Sound System on Loud Records. Both had we had 2 or 3 bands that had major label deals.
Okay, yeah.
It's a lot of work to run something like that with you know how it is. It's a
plus
job.
Plus you're still doing your family law and the other stuff that you got.
Yeah, plus I'm still practicing law.
Yeah.
So I was super busy. And then, so the Dokken thing, Don did what he did. And, eventually one day around 2002, late 2002, early 2003, he called me and he said, I want to fly out to Vegas. He didn't say, I want to see if you could play in the band, nothing like that. It's like, hey, why don't you come out to Vegas and come see the show? We're on the tour with the Scorpions and come watch it. I want to get your opinion, see what you think. And I'm like, okay, yeah, figure I'll fly it. He flew me up there. So he put me up in a hotel. I'm like, great. So
they're probably doing a pretty sizable venue, I would think, right?
It was Arena. Yeah, it was
the Arena, right? Okay,
yeah.
right.
So I don't remember which one, but it was in Arena. So after that show, he came to the hotel and he said, so, what do you think? I'm like, wow, it was great, man. He's like, you want it? He's like, well, you want to do it? I'm like, really? I'm like, you want to change? He's like, yeah, I want to change.
Who's playing guitar now at this point?
At that point, Alex DeRosso.
Oh, okay. Got it. Yep. I know who that is.
He said, yeah, I want to change. And he said, but let me ask something. If I put you in the band, number one, do you have the time to do it?
The commitment.
And at that point, things had changed because I didn't have the label anymore. And with the technology had advanced that you were able to plug a cell phone into a laptop and get internet.
Mm-hmm.
So I was like thinking, you know what? I can set up an office in the back of the bus. And that's what I did.
Yeah, you could do day work in the bus and when you're traveling. Yeah.
And he said to me, but if you're going to commit to this, then you need to commit to it. And I understood that. And I said, I thought about it. And I don't know if I told him right on the spot, but I think I did. And I think I knew I could do it. And I said to him, let's do it.
Now, when you say commit, what I'm hearing there is he's going to put you on salary as an employee, right?
No, I'm not talking anything monetary. I'm just saying commit to joining the band.
No, but I mean, ultimately, that's kind of how the business arrangement is going to be, though, right?
Well, it's probably
can't get into that.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, that's cool. That's fine.
Yeah,
that's fine. No problem.
But what he meant is, obviously, I'm sure Don was thinking, if you're going to do this, don't quit on me.
Don't half-ass it.
Yeah, because I'm sure the last thing he wanted was another change.
Right.
At 3, and that was it. Then we started writing for Hell to Pay.
And so that leads to today. You are the second longest tenured Dokken member, I believe, in the history of the band, right?
Yeah. Well, yeah, Mick and I.
It was Mick. Maybe Mick.
Mick would be longer than me, obviously.
That's true because he was the early phase. Okay, third longest. My.
Yeah, the third longest. Yeah.
How does that strike you when you think about it, or you hear me say that to you, coming from, as this Long Island kid that was kind of revering that band and the guitar player and the singer and all that stuff, and you're like, damn, I'm the third longest member of this band. It got to be a head trip, right?
No, I didn't ever think about those things, so it doesn't register in my head.
Yeah?
Even if you're telling me that, I'll never carry that.
Yeah, but you're in it,
I'll
so
forget it as soon as we're out here, and I won't be thinking it or say it. You know what I mean? Like I sort of just live moment to moment, man.
That's cool.
But it's great, though. I mean, I feel wonderful having speaking to you about it. I mean, it's an accomplishment, and that's
sure is. Yeah. Hey, a couple quick ones, and I'll get you out of here in 15 minutes. Sound good?
Great.
All right. Tim asked, were there any changes you made in your playing style from Doro to Dokken?
Nothing intentional, just a progression. I think just for me, music's just been a progression. and it keeps evolving into whatever the road that takes me, wherever it may be, you know. And I think it's true for a lot of musicians. I mean, like you said with George, he's playing some different things now, so you know that's his part of his evolution. You know,
Sure.
I think it's the musicians that don't evolve sort of stay in one place, right? I mean, you got to always strive to do something different, something new, something more, you know.
Yeah, you look at a guy like Robert Fripp, you know, who's sometimes too ethereal for his own good, in my opinion. He's just, but now you see him on YouTube with his wife doing these videos. I don't know if you've ever seen any of those where he's playing like Nevermind and playing like contemporary metal songs, and you're like, what is up with this? You never think you would ever hear Robert Fripp doing Enter Sandman or something like that. And he's playing in his weird way because he tunes to those, what, sixths or fifths or what is it? Or fourths?
I'm not that familiar with that, so.
Yeah, I can't remember how he does his weird alternate tuning that he does. But Helen asks, let's see here, John, what is your favorite of your guitars to use live? Yeah, so let's jump into the gear nerd stuff, and we'll get you out of here in a couple minutes. What's your? I know your go-to in the studio. You said is a Les Paul, 70s Les Paul, 80s.
No, it's that Les Paul is 91. It's nothing like collectible or special for me. I mean, it's a cheap.
Are you that guy?
What's that?
Are you that guy? Are you a collector?
I have a decent collection. Yeah, I spent a lot of the money I had when I was younger. Anything I made, touring or whatever, buying like some older guitars and stuff, and I still have them. But yeah.
What's your most valuable one? That not that you need to speak about it, but
I like valuable to me.
Well, no, I mean like if you had to sell something, what would be your biggest cash prize?
Sure, I really don't know. I don't follow like the market really. But
no 59 Les Pauls.
I got some 50 stuff.
Oh, nice.
Not like any flame top bursts or anything like that.
Okay, yeah, well, who has those? Slash,
yeah,
Kirk Hammett, those dudes.
Yeah,
their pocketbooks are ever so slightly larger than probably ours. Yeah. I'm just guessing.
But that Les Paul I use in the studio, it's just like a gothic Les Paul. It's light, so it's easy for me to play, and it stays in tune, and it plays really well. But for recording, it stays in tune, and it sounds really woody, warm and chunky, like a chunky, warm wood tone. So I used it on like Saving Grace, I think, has it, and on the rhythms.
Now, live, you tend to play. What do you tend to play live? Charvels and Jacksons?
No Jacksons, but right now on this guitar, that's just a component guitar. I managed to get like Dan Lawrence put something together for me. I got an old body and an old neck, and he put it together. I need like very light instruments, and that one's super light because I have some shoulder issues.
Okay.
But it's really working really well for me. I'm not one to change guitars like all the time. Like I get comfortable on one, and if I don't have to think about it causing me any issues, then I'm good with that one. Until something screws up in it and there's a problem, then I'll switch to something else. Yeah.
Well, okay, but live though, do you have a couple different guitars and different tunings? I would imagine.
No,
no.
Just frankly, I just usually bring one because we do fly dates. So hopefully, bring that. But I seem to have like 4 instruments that I'll cycle through between 4. And if one, like right now, I'm on the black and blue one. If that gets, then I have the black and white one, the black and red one, and the brown and black one.
And those are put togethers, or are they Charvels? Or
2 of those are Charvels, and 2 of them are put togethers.
Okay.
Yeah.
And what do you use in pickup wise? Do you use the same set of pickups, or do you have different ones, configurations?
But most of the, for the studio, I sort of like variation to try different things. Although I got a couple studio guitars that really seem to be my go-tos that I know what I'm going to get there. But I like the DiMarzio Tone Zone for a lot. But the pickups that I like really aren't anything that anyone sells. So.
Oh, really?
Yeah. But the Tone Zone for me has been a great go-to pickup. I mean, it's in most of my things. It works really well for live because a lot of times, you get amps that aren't the greatest.
Yeah.
And the tone, like with the Tone Zone and like a Tube Screamer type of pedal, I can make an okay amp have some sort of life,
What do you use? I think we might have really quickly touched on this, but we'll do it real fast. What kind of, like, your flying gig rig? What do you, do you have a pedal board you take that's all?
Yeah, I do. It's just got a Boss chorus, Boss D 500 delay. Is that what it's
The
called?
delay, the white one.
Yeah, it's like a two pedal, two switch white one's got that.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Then I have the Body Blow overdrive booster.
I think it's the white one that looks like this.
Yeah. It doesn't have those two pedals on there, but it's that size.
Yeah, it's
Like,
the this is
the
the looper. But
okay, yeah, that's the size of the pedal, and I have it. I just use one delay setting, so.
Oh really? You don't?
Yeah, I have one delay setting, and there's two buttons, and one has it louder than the other.
Okay.
So that's pretty much it. The chorus is just the plain Boss chorus, and the Body Blow, and then I have a channel switcher in there because the Marshall ones don't reach the front of the stage. That's the whole thing. Oh, there's a tuner. I have a tuner.
Okay.
Yeah.
You don't. Excuse me. You don't. And then do you use a tube screamer in there for boost?
No, I don't use Tube Screamer. I use the Body Blow. It's called.
Oh, Body Blow.
Magic Box. It's by Magic Box.
Okay. Yep.
I've had really good luck with that one. I had too many problems in the past with the Tube Screamers, but I do like the Tube Screamer. I use it in the studio, but the Body Blow has just been really good for live. It doesn't compress your sound as much, It's more open and chunky sounding.
I think we talked about this. You're not a huge fan, I think you said, of the amp in a box stuff. You're not a Kemper Axe Effects guy.
I've tried most of those things, and I've had a real tough time. I can't get it right for live. I just can't. The 2-3 times I've tried, it just was not even close for me.
Struggling with it.
Yeah, I'm pretty good at getting the rental amps to work. Sometimes it's easier than other times. Like if I get there and the gear is like really clean, like say it's from SIR, I know I'm in good shape.
Are you if you had to choose, are you an EL34 or 6L6 guy?
Oh, I like both, but if for Marshalls, I'm more EL34. So that's what I use in most. I have 6L6s in one head that I own, and the other 3 are EL34s. But it's really hard to get any good tubes anymore. So the amps I'm using are 20 some years old.
Yeah.
So when I get out, it's getting harder because if they're not really well maintained, it's harder to get something that works, and I'm having to spend more time at sound checks because of cabinets that don't work and cabinets that are out of phase or a blown speaker, and or it's becoming harder. So if I could get to the point that I maybe could get the Kemper and get it to work right for me, what's that?
It'd be a great thing to utilize if you could get it sounding right. Yeah.
Yeah. If I could get it sounding close enough, I would probably at this point in my career.
The thing you get out of that is consistency.
Right. And I think I'd rather have something that sounds 80% as good of my real amp. Okay. It's not as good, but when we play locally and I use my real amps, it's just so much better.
Well, it's all that air moving, you're feeling the music where you don't quite feel it with the digital platforms.
I mean, it's always obviously better when it sounds good. My amps have like bell tones because they're maintained well. Like the top end's really crystal clear, and it's tighter. Do
you have a speaker configuration that you favor?
You know what? Celestion were nice enough to send me the 75 watt. I like the 75s. I don't know what. They sent me some special version of them or something. I don't know, man. These sound unbelievable. I've never been this happy.
Yeah,
they sound like a typical. I like typical 75 watt ones. I'm happy with those. Mm-hmm. But these don't sound like a typical 75. It's just really, really bizarre. It almost sounds like someone crossed a 25 watt speaker with a 75 watt speaker. It has a sandiness to it. I mean, if you play it has this certain sandiness that you have from a 25 watt, but in the tightness of the 75. So for me, it's just like, I'm just really super, super happy. Like they're the best sounding cabinets I've ever heard.
Yeah. The gear nerd part of me that isn't that well versed in it, here's all this, 75 greenbacks, 25 greenbacks, and I'm like, what? Like I know in my case, and I was going to ask this, I have pretty bad tinnitus from a number of reasons.
Yeah, me too.
Okay, I was going to ask, do you suffer from that?
Yeah, I hear it when I, quiet room at night. I lie down. I'm like, oh, what's that noise? I didn't know everyone else didn't hear it. I thought everyone heard it.
Wow,
that's not normal.
No, it's not normal. Actually,
Okay.
like I have it really bad because I have a medical component of it that kind of exacerbated it. But so really, like when I hear people talk about like audiophile people, it's like the analog signal sounds so much better than the CD. But I'm like, what the fuck are you people hearing? Like I cannot hear that much. Maybe it's better that way because I don't overanalyze things too much when it comes to sound. I just know what I like to hear, and when I hear it, I know it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that's kind of the way that rolls with me. I was just wondering, I was curious, as most of us guitar players, we do suffer a little bit from that because we, as young players, are like, what? It's super loud? Huh? What? You're like, you don't realize how loud you're playing sometimes early on, and you don't, if you don't protect it, usually there's a residual, right?
Yeah, I didn't wear earplugs for the most of my career. And I remember definitively when I hurt my ears. I was on the road with Warlock, and we were doing a sound check, and I bent down to do something right in front of the monitors, and there was a horribly loud feedback at that moment, and my left ear never really was the same after that.
So interesting tie-in with Dokken here. 1986, Philadelphia Spectrum. I see Dokken open for Judas Priest.
Oh, wow.
On the Underlock and Key tour, it's Priest for Turbo. I think it was the loudest show I was ever at. My left ear has never quite been the same. I think it was more from Priest than it was from Dokken.
I saw that.
You saw that tour?
I saw them at the Nassau Coliseum on that tour, and I watched Dokken's show, and I watched a few songs of Judas Priest, and I remember it. You're right; it was ungodly loud.
Oh, ear piercing.
But I left because there was someone throwing like M80s, and they
damn.
were like right near me. I remember the show because someone.
Is that the one they tore the seats out? That might be the one they tore the seats out.
I think that was.
Yeah.
I left before that happened, but someone shot a bottle rocket at Mick, and I remember seeing Mick duck. And I asked him about that, I don't know, years later. I'm like, hey, Mick, I saw you play a gig, man. Remember at the Coliseum, some guy shot a bottle rocket at you. He remembered. He's like, I know, I ducked. It almost hit my head. I'm like, I saw you do that.
I'll tell you what, though, the band, I then saw them again in 88 on the Monsters of Rock tour, which was kind of when things were starting to get dicey with the band in terms of all the management stuff and weirdness and stuff. And I will tell you, man, George was absolutely on fire in 86, man. Holy shit. It was just like,
he really was. That era, and then the Lynch Mob too. I watched some shows that were just unbelievable, man. There's this one show of him playing a blue Paul Reed Smith guitar. I think it might have been from overseas, and man, he was just smoking.
Yeah, that would have been, I think that was during the Wicked Sensation.
Yeah, Oni was in.
Oni was in the band. Yeah, I saw them in Baltimore at Hammerjacks, which isn't even around anymore. And I was, 5 feet in front of them on the stage. And again, the ears, destroying the ears, never. And always when I went to these shows, after 2 or 3 beers, you didn't notice how loud it really was, So unfortunately, I used to go to shows and get pretty obliterated. And I'd just be like, the louder, the better. Destroy me, just wreck me. And now many years later, I'm kind of regretting that, but I want to show you something real quick. So I did pick up some guitars. I did pick up a Les Paul, but not a Les Paul.
Oh, look at that. That's nice.
I picked up the Epi.
Gorgeous.
The Cantrell Signature. Dude, this is as good as any Les Paul I've played. Now, and I've played, $6,000-$8,000 customs. I actually kind of like this better, man.
You know what? They're all individual. Like it's, you know what I'm saying? Like I said, my one is my favorite one. I paid $900 for the thing in 1991, and it's my go-to.
But this is gonna be my go-to.
Oh wow, very nice.
I really, really love this thing, man. It's
make
got a
great
Floyd
guitars.
that I got to get a little bit of work done on, just a tiny bit, but it's got Seymour Duncan's in it. Man, this thing plays really good, and it's only a $1,200 guitar. I didn't have to go spend $8,000 on it. You know what I mean?
Price doesn't always mean much of anything. I have some guitars that I paid a lot for or are worth a lot, and I pick them up like, oh, this feels terrible.
I think the only place that price makes a huge difference, I think you'll agree, is when you spend what I spent on my acoustic. I bought a Taylor 424 CE Walnut Edge Burst.
Oh,
nice. My God, dude! And I spent more on that singularly than I spent on two electrics, because I think on the acoustic there's a whole difference with regards to acoustics. You buy a shitty acoustic, you're getting a shitty guitar.
I don't even have one.
Don't you really?
I have one acoustic 12 string that I record with, but I don't have a 6 string acoustic.
What's your 12 string?
It's a vintage Fender Villager from the 60s.
Oh wow! Yeah. You don't have an actual 6 string acoustic though.
No. And I have a Dan Electro 12 string, but I don't own a 6 string acoustic guitar now.
So when you're sitting around the house, when Jon Levin's just chilling, he's not rock star and he's not lawyering and stuff like that. When you play, do you just generally play with your electric acoustically then?
Yeah, usually I have them hanging on a couple walls in different parts of the house. So there's near couches nearby. So I'll sometimes just grab one of them. It's easy for me to grab it and just noodle around. Sometimes I'll leave a little practice amp on the coffee table in the living room. I have the it's like this big. I forgot what it's called.
Oh, is it the Microburst or
the Black Star makes it?
Oh, the Black Star one. Yeah.
Yeah, it's really good.
Microburst, I think. Yeah, those things are pretty cool.
It sounds great. I can't remember the name of it, but the thing is really, really cool. So I'll noodle around with that. Then in the studio, I have more hanging up on the walls.
Do you find you practice much anymore these days, or is it kind of not at all?
I never practice. I stopped practicing. By the time I was in my early 20s, I didn't have attention span to practice, like sit there and play a scale or something.
No kidding, really?
I mean, my practicing is just playing and noodling around, and listening to things. Okay. I learn a lot from listening, even like song creation, listening, like you listen to the Beatles and it's like, wow, listen, what was that change they did?
Yeah. The chordal changes and changes and things. Yeah.
But yeah, I just play and noodle around. I don't really, I never had much, I don't have the attention span. I have too much. My ADD is too hardcore for me to ever learn in that sort of a structured way.
Do you find your ADD, ADHD is getting worse the older you get? Because I know it is for me.
Yeah, it's been
for me. It is
harder and harder and harder to pay attention. I don't even try anymore. I just do what I have to do. And
I think it's the world we live in, man. It's the constant. It's the constant this and the constant this, and it's like we're being inundated by information 24/7, and our brains never really kind of quiet down anymore. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, well, listen, I'm gonna let you get out of here. There was one more thing I wanted to ask you. Damn it! Oh shit! Oh, it slipped my mind. I had it there, and I was like, that's the ADHD guy in me. I come up with a really cool
all
question.
Day long. Trust me.
I'm like, I got a question. I got to ask it now. If I don't interrupt, he won't get it, and it'll go fast. And it did. It went fast, but. Look, man, I really so much appreciate you coming back and
my pleasure.
Sitting for a full bore, interview. And I know what it was. Duh. What's on tap for 24? What's going on? Same.
Touring the Hell to Pay. I'm sorry, touring the Heaven Comes Down record.
And and it's going to be flying stuff or not? I saw you're going to Europe.
We're doing it. We got a European tour coming.
Okay.
We're doing Wacken. That's confirmed. We're on it.
This is summer, August, right?
August, summer. I know we're gonna do 3 weeks or so in Europe, and then States during the rest of the year. I don't know about an actual tour. It might happen, but if not, there'll be a lot of fly-ins.
They're just the fly-in stuff. Yeah.
I wouldn't be surprised if it turns out that we do some tour, we get a tour and do fly-ins, but we'll see.
There was one other thing. This was one other that tied in with that, and I promise that'll be it. A couple of years ago, maybe 2 years ago. When did you start your website? 2.5 years ago, something like that.
I started it. You know what? I started that during COVID because I had a lot of time in my hands.
Right. You don't have that time anymore.
I'm going to probably be taking it down at this point. I just don't have the time for it.
So you're not teaching anymore at this point, right?
Once in a while when I have the time, I don't mind doing it, but just it's when I can. If someone is out to me and I'm like, you know what, I know I have like an easy week this week, I'll do it.
Okay. Yeah. I was curious. I kind of figured maybe things had started to pick up where you weren't able to.
Yeah. That's
get to it.
In COVID, there was plenty of time to do a whole bunch of nothing.
Right.
So I was like, let me do a website and start putting on some clips. And I thought it'd be fun to do it, and got me learning how to operate the camera and getting my sound into the camera. So it was sort of cool,
Yeah. And it's funny because I actually thought about hitting you up. And the problem for me was, which I'll tell you real quick when we end here, I'll tell you what's going on. But medically, I was very, very tight. Like money was scary tight. And I was just like, man, I just don't think I can actually afford. I think you were doing it for like $60 an hour or something like that. If I remember.
I don't know what it was.
Maybe it was even more. I don't remember. But I just couldn't really justify it at the time. I just, it was like, do I learn guitar from Jon or do I eat pizza this week? Like, you know what I mean? It was a survival thing. So, yeah, I just was curious what was going on, whether that was kind of like a thing of the past. Sounds like it kind of is. Yeah.
Yeah, sort of, I don't mind, at least the website. I don't have time to maintain it anymore.
Right.
Once in a while to give some people lessons, like especially, sometimes kids reach out to me and they're like really, or a mother will say, my son really would love to take, and then
Yeah. So Helen says real quick, hi to Jon from the UK. Really hoping that Dokken gets over here next year. Well, it sounds like they're going to Germany. So
yeah.
Anything brewing for England?
Don't know, but I'm sure they'll, if it comes up,
closer to.
We're there,
Yeah.
I know there's I looked at the preliminary tour schedule and there's a lot. So it's
Helen, you might have to get yourself over to Germany or over to mainland Europe. That's pretty easy.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, it's not too far of a flight.
Yeah.
From England.
Tim says great stream. Cool. And he did have one quick question. What did you learn from playing the George riffs and solos? Yeah, that's actually a good question. What did you learn?
I can tell you one thing I learned by watching them play. I'm not playing them right.
Do we ever play them right? George doesn't play them right anymore, probably.
Right? Well, I guess I learned listening to his solos, the composition of those solos. A lot of people think like, oh, George plays fast. George doesn't only play fast. Like
no,
are not all fast leads.
There's
a melody, like take whatever, The Hunter or Breaking the Chains. There's melody in there. Or Breaking the Chains really doesn't even have any fast licks in it.
Or Dream Warriors, man.
Or Dream Warriors. George knew how to pull amazing and knows how to pull
amazing
incredible notes and
melodies.
He wasn't some guy that just shredded fast notes.
No, but that fucking solo on Tooth and Nail and on Paris is
okay. That one is an exception, but that is also just the composition of that lead. To write a guitar solo that's a minute long, man.
Yes.
And keep it interesting and musical and melodic the way he did that. I mean, that's amazing.
And here's the other thing. I mean, I'd have to ask George, and maybe you have. I highly doubt he sat down and just ripped that out in the studio. That was probably a composed solo where he figured out pieces and parts to link the whole thing together, right? I'm guessing.
I don't. You'd have to ask him that.
Yeah.
But like listening back to other guys like when I listen to the Randy Rhoads leads, I don't know this for a fact, but it sounds to me that those were compositions because he doubled them too. So
yep.
It sounds to me that he planned out a lead, and
I think
I don't know. I mean, some of it to me sounds like they were. I mean, seeing him play live, he can play some amazing stuff.
Improvised.
Yes. And there's not a lot of people that could do that.
I think he's more of an improvisational guitarist now than he's ever been in his life. He's just kind of flying by the seat of his pants. He relies on certain George Lynchisms. There's no doubt about that. He has a very definable thing. You know what I mean? And how many guitar players can you really say have their own thing?
Yeah, there's not a lot. He's got a fingerprint. Absolutely.
Neil Sean.
That's a great question to ask him next time.
Yeah.
And let me know what he says because I'd be curious.
Well, you're gonna have to hook me up with him. I got to get connected to him somehow. So I will. I think I've got a connection. If not, I'll talk to you. But yeah, like Neil Sean. Neil Sean's another guy. Just when you hear Neil Sean, that's a Neil Sean solo.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Also, there's a guy. He can play super fast too, but he a lot of melodies.
Super melodic.
Some of the best stuff he did with Journey, I mean, is singable.
Dude, the fucking the solo to da 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 da. What's that heart burns a fire. Who's crying now? Who's crying now? That is the greatest solo ever written, I think. I love that solo.
Incredible.
Or Lights.
There's not a fast lick in there.
Not at all. Not at all. So, dude, I can't thank you enough for this, Jon. It's welcome, super cool, man.
Hopefully I didn't bore too many people.
No, I think this is a very gripping, fantastic interview from your perspective. I apologize for interjecting. It is my ADHD, and I fear if I don't say it, I'm going to lose it. And so I hope I get to meet you. Hope
Sure.
you guys, if you get in the Philly, Baltimore area next year sometime, if you do a fly-in, I'll definitely come out and I'll take you out for lunch or something like that, or we'll go get a beer or something.
Forward to it, man. That'd be great.
All right, brother. Thank you so much. And
All right.
hang on one sec.
Yeah.
We're gonna end the stream here real quick.
Sure.
I know you got to go.